When did everybody get so angry? I don't mean politically angry. I'm not going anywhere near that. I'm talking about Tuesday afternoon angry, grocery store angry, parking lot angry. The kind of angry where somebody takes 3 seconds too long to move when the light turns green, and apparently that's enough to start a feud between two people who don't even know each other. Something feels different. Maybe I'm imagining things. Maybe people have always been this way and I'm just sort of noticing it more. But I don't think that's all of it. I still do certain things without really thinking about them. I hold doors for people, men, women, children. It doesn't matter. If somebody's coming up behind me, I'll hold the door. I still call strangers sir and ma'am. If I'm dealing with somebody, at a store or a restaurant, I try to be as polite as I can. Please, thank you, excuse me. Nothing remarkable. At least I never thought it was remarkable. My mom and dad taught me these things, but it wasn't just them. It was culture too. At that time you were expected to have some kind of manners. And if you didn't, somebody usually let you know. There was this general understanding that when you went out in the world, other people were going to be there. And you were expected to, behave accordingly. Somewhere along the way, though, that seems to have become negotiable. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Here comes the old guy, young people today. And I'll admit it. There are times when I watch some young person interact with another human being and I wonder if anybody actually raised them, or if they were raised by wild dogs and eventually released near a shopping center. But that's just too easy. I've seen plenty of people my age behaving just as badly. Older people too. Rudeness apparently has an excellent retirement plan. So this really isn't about generations. It's about the way we seem to interact with each other now. Look at driving. Somebody wants to merge in front of us. Why does that sometimes feel like we're losing? You're going to arrive at exactly the same place approximately 4 seconds later. But something inside us says absolutely not. That's my 12 feet of highway. Or somebody doesn't move immediately when the light changes. The light has been green for, 3/4 of a second. And somebody's already on the horn. Stores aren't much different. Somebody's taking too long at the register. Somebody's standing in the aisle. The person ahead of us has a question, and you can almost feel the irritation building around you. Sometimes you can feel it building in yourself, can't you? I've done it. I'm standing there thinking, come on. And then I catch myself. What exactly am I late for most of the time? Nothing. Apparently, I just need to get home as quickly as possible so I can sit down. That's when I started wondering whether anger is even where this begins. Maybe it starts with just impatience, right? Because we're not very good at waiting anymore. And why would we be? You want to watch something? It's there. You want to hear a song? There it is. You want to know something? You can have the answer in seconds. You want to buy something? Somebody may put it on your porch tomorrow morning. Even getting lost has become difficult. Your phone just calmly keeps finding another way to save you from yourself. Everything has become faster, more convenient, more personalized, more responsive to us. And then we walk out into the real world, and unfortunately, there are other people in it. Other people don't work on demand. They walk too slowly. They change their minds. They make mistakes. They have 11 items in a 10-item line. 11. This is the collapse of Western civilization. And maybe we've become so accustomed to the world responding instantly to what we want that ordinary human inconveniences feel different now. Not inconvenient, personal. That driver didn't make a mistake. He did something to me. That cashier isn't having trouble. She's wasting my time. That person isn't simply standing there. They're in my way. And once everything becomes personal, anger gets, well, it gets pretty easy. Then we added constant connection. There was a time when somebody irritated you and you couldn't immediately tell 300 people about it. You had to carry the anger around for a while. Maybe you'd complain when you got home, and maybe by the time you got around to telling the story, you weren't that angry anymore. The world gave you a cooling off period. But now, you can argue with a complete stranger without even leaving your couch. And somebody somewhere will probably agree with you. Which makes me wonder whether technology has made us angrier, or simply remove some of the spaces where anger used to have time to disappear. But there is something I have to admit. I'm not convinced everybody really was nicer years ago. We do this with the past, don't we? We kind of sand off the rough edges. You know, there were rude people when I was growing up too. Obnoxious neighbors, angry customers, terrible drivers. I'm pretty sure somebody got flipped off in 1983. Human nature didn't suddenly change because somebody invented the smartphone. Maybe we're just seeing more of it. 40 years ago, if some guy lost his mind in a grocery store 3 states away, you never knew about it. Today, somebody records him. By dinner, you watched it twice. So maybe the world isn't entirely angrier. Maybe anger just has better distribution. But I do think something has changed. Not necessarily the anger. The expectation that we control it. There used to be these little phrases floating around. Don't make a scene. Watch your mouth. Say thank you. Apologize. Show some respect. You don't talk to people that way. They weren't profound. They were just little social rules, and they didn't only come from our parents. They came from the culture all around us. Maybe that's what manners really were. Not fancy rules about what fork you're supposed to use at dinner. Just little ways human beings learn to reduce the friction of living around other human beings. Excuse me. Sorry. Thank you. Go ahead. After you. Sometimes 2 words were enough to keep 2 strangers from strangling each other. That's actually a pretty impressive invention. Which makes me wonder if, in one strange way, we're kind of de-evolving. Not technologically. Technologically, we're doing things that would have looked like magic when we were kids, right? We've never had more ways to communicate, more access to information, more convenience. We've never been more connected than we are now. And yet sometimes we seem less capable of dealing with a person standing 3 feet away. More connected technologically, less patient socially, more ways to communicate, less willingness to listen, more convenience, less tolerance for inconvenience. Because underneath all of that technology, we're still human beings. We all get frustrated. We're selfish sometimes. We're impatient. We get angry. Those instincts aren't new. Maybe manners were never proof that we evolved beyond them. Maybe manners existed because somewhere along the way, we figured out that we hadn't. We needed little rules, little reminders, tiny acts of restraint. Because civilization isn't just laws and governments and enormous institutions. A surprising amount of it happens in parking lots or in checkout lines, restaurants, sidewalks, doorways, places where 2 people know absolutely nothing about each other and have to share the same 5 feet of space for a few seconds. And here's the thing. Most of the time, it still works. Somebody says thank you. Someone lets you merge. Somebody says go ahead, right? And nobody goes home and tells that story. Nobody says, You are not going to believe what happened today. A guy let me merge on the highway. We remember the person that didn't. Maybe decent people haven't really disappeared. Maybe quiet decency just isn't very interesting. Anger gets our attention. Courtesy usually doesn't. But those little things matter. Holding a door isn't really about the door. Saying thank you is not about those two words, is it? Letting somebody into traffic isn't surrendering 12 feet of asphalt. They're just tiny acknowledgments. I see you. You're here too. We have to share this place. And maybe that's what bothers me when those things seem to disappear. Not because I need everybody to call me sir. Not because I want to return to some imaginary time when everyone was perfectly polite. That time never existed. Maybe everybody didn't suddenly get angrier. Maybe anger was always there. Maybe what's changed is how quickly we're willing to hand ours to somebody else. Because being civilized was never something human beings accomplished once and got to keep forever. It required a little bit of restraint, a little bit of patience, and every once in a while, letting somebody else go first. One door, one checkout line, one traffic light at a time.